I'd love to openly embrace on the surface, there's a new deal with Intel. And it sounds really smart. And it sounds like, yeah, that's the way we should do business. It sounds capitalist. It sounds patriotic, but then again, so did the Patriot Act. So here's what's happening. Donald Trump is taking $8.9 billion, money already set aside by the CHIPS Act, and instead of handing it to Intel as a grant, he bought stock in Intel. Now, that sounds really smart, right? Sounds like what a businessman would do. Really smart. I'm not going to just give them the money. We'll invest, and that way we get some profits when they succeed. So we now own 10% of the company. Non-voting shares. We got it at a discount. And we have $2 billion now worth of paper gains. I love that, right? It sounds really good. Why aren't we running this place more like a business? It's pro-capitalist, right? No more government giveaways. Taxpayers are investors. And we benefit when Intel rebounds. Okay. Any other things? Well, yeah, it's really important for national security. We're keeping chip manufacturing at home. We stabilize the economy without running it. We reassure the markets and attract other private investors. On paper, it's really good. It's clean. It's efficient. It's savvy. Now, what is it that's bothering me? Well, it's not exactly the American system. In fact, it might be everything we're not supposed to do. The government was never supposed to use our taxpayer dollars to be a shareholder in private enterprise. But again, we're doing all kinds of things that we've already gone there, haven't we? Hasn't the government picked winners and losers now forever? Haven't they been wasting your money? I'd rather instead of a grant, I'd rather have it in stock. So if we win, we win. We all win. But that's actually the model of state capitalism in China. It's not the free market in the United States. Intel is vital, absolutely vital. Chips are the lifeblood of anything that's going to happen for national security and our economy. But we cannot get into the habit of we can't normalize in any way Washington, D.C. buying stock in struggling companies. Because what's next? Ford, Boeing. How about your grocery stores? I mean, that's Mamdani, isn't it? And once that door opens, government no longer just regulates the market. They own a piece of it. Now, what happens after we own a piece of that? So in 2008, I had a big sponsor. It was a sponsor that Premier Radio Networks had worked 20 years to get. We finally landed them, and I had a good working relationship with them. It was General Motors. And then the government bailed them out in 2008. And they promised it was temporary, and I said, great, call me back once you've paid them off. I don't like this. The government should not be involved. And they said, well, they're not going to be involved. But they were, because the first thing they did was they canceled the hydrogen car, something they really believed in right before the election. I know, because I was talking to them about it all the time. And then after the election, Barack Obama cancels all hydrogen products, and GM is like, yeah, that stupid hydrogen thing, we're with them. And the precedent was set, and I was out. I canceled General Motors. Stupid. Business-wise, stupid. Ethically, the right thing to do. And ever since, whenever there's a crisis, that temptation is there. Why not just buy a slice of the company? Why not stabilize it? Make a little profit on it. And that's how you slip from capitalism to corporatism. Free markets backed by government winners and losers. You do not want to go down this road. When we are both the investor and the regulator, which one wins? Come on, not a hard question answer. Which one wins? Not the regulator. The investor wins. If the investor is also the regulator, look, if we do this, we're going to make a lot of money. You're going to make a lot of money. You'll have more money for all these projects you want. Okay, all right, okay. It's not it's the taxpayers aren't the one. The company, the politicians, who really wins? What happens when an administration leans on its own company for political purposes? You know what? I think you're going to get rid of that hydrogen car. We love the hydrogen car. You know what? I think you're going to get rid of that hydrogen car. We hate that hydrogen car. Boy, we hate it. Donald Trump looks at Intel losing $8.8 billion last year, lays off 20,000 workers, chokehold of Taiwan, South Korea on semiconductors. He wants America protected. He wants taxpayers to share in the upside. He doesn't want just to bear the cost. We should get the upside. All of those things are good, right? It's really tempting. But is it what we are supposed to do? Is it the right thing? I don't like it when Washington holds stock certificates. Not a good thing. It should be reforming taxes, cutting red tape, letting capital flow to strong ideas, making sure national security is secured through policy, but not ownership of these things. Are you comfortable if the United States just took over AI or just took it over and said, we're just going to own 10%? Oh, they needed another bailout. We're going to just own 20%. Oh, I need another bailout. Okay, we're going to own 40% of that. Do you think that company wouldn't become beholden to the United States government? And who are they beholden to? The Defense Department? The deep state? The president? Or you? I think you know the answer to that one. Stu, how do you work around this one? Because I love this idea. I love the fact that we're running things like a business. And if we're going to give people loans, why not take a stake? Why not?
Well, first of all, can we step back, one little bit and just acknowledge that the original sin here in the first place was the CHIPS Act? Look, the CHIPS Act was not a good bill in the first place, and that's not the current president's fault. Yep. But he has to live under that law, and he's trying to improve it. But that was a disaster in the first place, and should not have been something that we did, certainly in the way that we did it. With buying into this, I mean, look, I understand it is better to have some of this money that, by the way, we're just borrowing and printing anyway, right? Like these are taxpayer dollars that we don't really have, that we're spending on something that it's good that potentially would have a return. I mean, this was the argument under TARP as well, right? Where we would go and we would do all this and we would take control of some of these banks and companies and they would eventually pay us back. And many of them did, by the way. Many of them did pay us back.
With interest. With interest.
Yeah, exactly. And so why not? Why don't we do that? We have done it from time to time. Normally it's been in extreme circumstances, right? When there's an emergency going on. And I will acknowledge, and I think you were on this as well, Glenn, these were not things that we supported at the time, but they were things that the government did at the time in what they saw as a time of financial crisis and reached in and took ownership of a bunch of these companies.
I would say we went further than not being for them.
I would agree with that analysis. Yeah. And the reason for that is...
Very much against them.
Very much against them. The reason for that is we don't want the government involved in, jumping into companies and micromanaging companies. Now, they'll say they have no voting rights. They'll say all sorts of things. But we now have a situation where the president of the United States has an interest in Intel's stock price. And I don't know
doesn't
that's...
talk, it screams.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
And
once the government becomes your partner in business, they're always your partner. Always.
Mm-hmm. And I understand where the president's coming from because at some level, it really is important to acknowledge he's been put in this position to try to make the best out of a bad thing. Now, I know, the president does really care about the chips and he does care about these industries being here in the United States. That is something that actually is legitimately important. I'm not denying that, but
right. He also cares about America doing well financially.
Yep.
He's tired of America getting screwed. The taxpayers getting screwed every time.
But on that point, because I get what he's saying there, it would be great. We're up a couple $1 billion. Let's say we double our profit. Let's say we make $10 billion off the deal. Nothing wrong with making $10 billion. Let's acknowledge what this is, though. We have $37 trillion in debt. Making $10 billion does absolutely nothing to this. Nothing. We're gonna waste that. Like, we could just instead be. We could have someone actually look at the next spending bill we have and just cut a few things around the corner and easily save $10 billion. The only way that this makes any impact, and this is what makes me nervous, is if you do it at scale. If you start doing this in every single company you can think of that is having problems or is in an industry of interest to the United States of America, then you start getting to a place where the government is in bed with lots of businesses, and maybe you could make a financial impact. And if we accept this argument now, I'm afraid we accept it then, too.
But haven't we already accepted it when America embraced public-private partnerships? I haven't accepted that.
Right.
I don't. I'm dead set against public. But isn't this a public-private partnership that the left is already? I mean, this is what they were pushing.
Well, and this is the concern, right? Who is cheering this on? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders he actually had this idea as an amendment in the CHIPS Act. This was his proposal. He's cheering it on right now. That doesn't mean that everything a Democrat brings up is the wrong idea. Maybe this is a good one. I mean, you could make that argument.
Is he a Democrat or is he a socialist?
Well, he's a socialist.
Yeah. So everything a socialist brings up
usually
probably a good bet.
Yeah. Again, this is it's just it's a road we should really, really be careful going down. I would argue we shouldn't go down it because it does lead to bad things, and it leads to bad things, by the way, when this president's long gone. Right, it's not just him. I mean, but what? I know we say this all the time. What are Democrats going to do with this newfound ability to invest in companies? And by the way, we should note, Intel doesn't need to accept this. Right, the CHIPS Act doesn't require them to sell part of the company. What's happening here is we're pressuring them into this, and I understand the reasoning for that. You brought up a really good arguments on this front. We're already suckered into giving these companies money because of the CHIPS Act. Why not make the situation better? And Intel is saying, well, they can make our lives miserable in 25 different ways. Let's partner with them. I get it on both sides. It doesn't mean it should be a foundational part of our economy going forward. And, if this is a one-time thing, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. If this is a precedent that goes on, it can be.
It will be. Once you start this, and, we have, how long? My whole life I've said, I wish we had a businessman as the president. I wish we had somebody that would look at the country and look at everything and go, how can we make money? How can we, save money? Let's run this a tighter ship. Well, he's doing that, although we're spending more money. And he's here he's like, well, let's just offset. Let's get, and he might pick the winner. I don't know if he will or not, but he might pick but tell me the last president that we had that ever said anything about industry. They're like, oh, you know what? That was a really good stock tip. No.
I mean, he'd be the guy. He'd be the one that you would trust on such things.
He would be the one.
Yeah.
I think in my lifetime, for sure, maybe the lifetime of the country.